Manchester United need a midfielder this summer. That is fairly obvious, and that is quite apparent not only from the club, but the fans, the media, everything around Manchester United screams midfielder this summer. Midfield overhaul. Now, what I want to talk about today is 3 different options from the names that we are consistently hearing, which is Elliot Anderson, Adam Wharton, and Carlos Baleba. I think there are a few more players that Manchester United should be looking at, and I think some of these are actually better options than what we are looking at in them 3 players named. Now, I want to go through these in order, and I'm going to give you a quick breakdown of them. Get down in the comments, let me know what you think of these players individually, whether you think they're better than the players that I've mentioned previously, or whether you think, no, Ben, what are you talking about? The first one for me is a player that I've spoken about so many times on my TikTok channel, it is untrue. And that is Amadou Onana from Aston Villa, right? 24 years old, Premier League experience, 6'4", physical, dominant. Now, when I look towards this midfield rebuild, what do I think we need? I think we need someone who can play alongside Kobbie Mainoo and bring the best out of Kobbie in terms of what he does. Now, what does he need? He needs ground coverage and he needs aerial presence. In the main, that is what Casemiro currently gives us in terms of aerial dominance, but not so much on the physical side. Onana slots perfectly into this team. I am telling you, he's 97th percentile for duels, 97th percentile for aerial duels won in the Premier League. He is a dominant physical specimen, and he's no slouch on the ball as well. I think people will look at him and think he's just a big, burly midfielder who kind of runs around, doesn't really get involved. But if you watch him on the ball, he's quite sensible with it. He's not overly progressive. He's not breaking lines constantly, but he's simple. He'll keep it nice and tidy. He's quite press resistant purely just down to his size. He's a big, big lad. He uses his arms well. He uses his body well. And I think alongside of Kobbie Mainoo, he could be a very, very good option. In at number 2, we've got Khephren Thuram from Juve. Now, if you've seen Luca over on TikTok, he loves this guy. He highly, highly rates him. 24-year-old, again, a little bit shorter than what Onana is, in at like 6'3"-ish. Again, a big, physical, dominant footballer. He's a little bit more of a carrier than Onana is in terms of he'll get on the ball, he'll run forward, he'll make runs into the box. I think he's actually very high in terms of percentile, in terms of midfielders with opposition touches in the box. Now, do we necessarily need that? I don't think so, but I think all of the other elements of his game are very, very good. He's physically dominant, and he's also got a very high recovery rate. You think of this Manchester United team, one of the big areas or the key concerns is on the transition. He's very, very good at that. He's very good in terms of recoveries, getting back into position, and also making that backwards tackle. That is something we miss. We are quite good in terms of pressing forwards and going and winning the balls, but when it's going the other way, we struggle to nip in. You think of like a Fernandinho at City coming in and just nipping the ball away from someone or taking the foul if needs be. I think Thuram would bring that. And again, 24 years old, he's got plenty of room to develop, to grow. He's kind of got like an upright style. He looks similar-ish to a winger in certain aspects of the game. When he's in and around the box, it gets quite upright. It's kind of like a Rashford stance, upright, skillful, gets on the ball. But when he's in his defensive third, he just does his job. And for me, that is a great option for this Manchester United team. This is someone who come into the team not necessarily expecting to start every single game, so you could still go and get like a Wharton, like a Anderson, who's going to be a ball progressor, and he could come in and be the steal when you need it. Finally, Agume. Now, this is a player I spoke about at the end of last season, saying that I think we should probably go for him instead of Baleba. I said that at the time. Now, again, 24-year-old. It's coincidence that all 3 of these players are 24 years old. He's a little bit shorter than the other 2, 6 foot or just over 6 foot, but his game is all about interceptions defensively. He's not necessarily a powerful ground coverage player like the other 2 we've just mentioned, but what he will bring you is very, very intelligent interceptions. Think like a Michael Carrick, knowing where to put yourself and when to put yourself in that position. Carrick was never physically dominant or covered loads of ground. Yes, he covered blades of grass when he needed to do, but not a ground eater as such, but Agume is similar in style in terms of getting in the right positions and cutting out them progressive passes. And that, like we've just mentioned, Manchester United defending on that back foot, that is quite important. If you can break out and intercept that first pass that cuts through your midfield, that cuts into the forwards, that is a very, very big trait that Manchester United should be looking out for. Then on the ball, he's better than the other two in terms of progressing the ball. He's got a beautiful kind of, I don't even know how to describe it, like it's straight diagonal. That it doesn't make sense, does it? But one of them where the striker might be running in behind and he's going like not necessarily diag like that, but in behind. And I could see like a Sesko, I could see an Mbumo running onto that and looking even more dangerous, even more progressive, even more transitional as a team. And yet again, 94% aerials. That is a key factor alongside a Kobe Menu in terms of that's probably one of Kobe's weakest areas is aerially, and that's why Casemiro and him are working quite well. I think an Agume, I think a Thuram, I think an Anana coming in, they need to be physically dominant in the air. All three of these players bring that in abundance. And the key thing about all of these players is I think you could get all of them, not all of them as in all three of them, but you could get them all individually for under 50 to 60 million pounds. Now, we're talking about Baleba and we're saying he's 80 million pounds. We're talking about Wharton, we're talking about Anderson and saying they're 100 million pound signings. I think these three players represent real value in the market. And these could be options that you get alongside an Anderson, you get alongside a Wharton. And then you've got a really nice dynamic in your midfield because you've got the ball carrier, the technical dribbler in Kobe Manu. You've got the big physical presence in one of these three. And then you've got the progressive passer in like a Wharton, in a Steeler, or an Anderson. And I think that'll be a really nice blend in this midfield. That is three players that I think Manchester United should be looking at. Get down in the comments. Let me know whether you agree, whether you disagree, whether you think I'm talking rubbish. But for me, I'll be all over Onana. I would, just for the Premier League experience. I think he's a very, very underrated player currently. Get down in the comments, like, subscribe, do all that jazz. And also go over onto TikTok and follow me on there. I'm on about 11 and a bit thousand followers. So I am loving it at the minute. I'll see you in the next one.